Why one lone hand has raised
Subversive.
up here? Actually, that is one more than I expected, I have to be honest.
Really?
Fuck no. Sorry. We are uncensored, but oh my God, the idea there's any comparison.
The rumors had been swirling since dawn, and when Piers Morgan went live, the entire royal commentary sphere braced for impact. Even the most dedicated followers of Meghan Markle's every move couldn't have predicted the absolute storm about to descend on Montecito. When Morgan unveiled his latest revelation from that previously undisclosed conversation, Meghan's response went far beyond anyone's expectations. She completely unraveled. The whole thing kicked off harmlessly at first, though harmless might be generous. Morgan teased his upcoming segment across social media with his signature mix of bait and intrigue. Believe you know everything about Harry and Meghan? Guess again. Breaking details on the way that'll leave everyone stunned, his message read. That single post alone triggered panic mode among Meghan's attorneys. For several weeks now, they'd been working overtime to prevent information leaks, suppress archived conversations, and monitor every single rumor circulating about her. Yet Morgan, with his signature talent for creating mayhem, had already laid the groundwork for absolute pandemonium.
And Meghan, when their behaviour became obnoxious, self-serving, and rankly hypocritical.
And pandemonium is precisely what erupted. Morgan launched into his segment with that trademark combination of confidence and doubt that keeps audiences glued to their screens, snacks at the ready. Folks, he announced as the camera pushed in for emphasis. Thought Harry and Meghan were finished dominating the news cycle? That they'd disappeared into their California lifestyle and everyone would move on? Think again. I've uncovered something completely unexpected, something that honestly could shed light on the Duchess's public behavior patterns. The screen flashed to obscured images, partially visible screenshots, and audio fragments that Morgan insisted had remained hidden from public view until now. Her court disputes, her streaming platform agreements, and yes, those controversial podcast episodes, all were hinted at as background. But the main revelation, Morgan insisted, was his possession of a concealed interview showcasing the Duchess during unguarded moments of personal disclosure, instances the world had been completely shut out from witnessing.
There was a decision taken by the palace.
Within moments, the internet exploded. Fragments from Morgan's preview spread like wildfire, shared tens of thousands of times. Viral jokes materialized instantly, and trending topics such as Sussex secrets and Morgan strikes again dominated feeds everywhere. For Meghan, this represented every publicist's worst nightmare. Years of meticulously constructed messaging, every curated social media moment, every charitable appearance, all suddenly threatened to be buried beneath speculation about intimate exchanges now being displayed in high definition to countless viewers. Back at their California residence, reports indicate Meghan's response was swift and visceral. She allegedly shut her computer with force, while her team rushed to provide support. Personnel who'd been briefed on standard media queries suddenly shifted into crisis management, fielding urgent communications, composing official responses, and coordinating with legal counsel on the fly. Someone close to the situation called it mayhem on a scale we haven't witnessed in quite some time. Yet the interview's actual content wasn't the only thing that rattled Meghan. The timing proved equally devastating. Public perception suggested she'd regained command of her image, that the Sussex reputation had stabilized, that the conversation had finally turned in their direction. Morgan's disclosure risked dismantling everything. And this wasn't some random reporter. This was Piers Morgan, a long-standing critic who possessed the unique ability to transform a casual remark into worldwide headlines within hours.
Of the royal family or the monarchy, given that two of our most famous young royals have waged a 3-year...
According to insiders, what intensified the situation was Morgan's calculated presentation of these disclosures. He required no exaggeration or theatrical embellishment beyond what the footage itself conveyed. The production choices, the deliberate silences, the carefully timed transitions, all engineered to heighten the spectacle, transforming it into what felt like an intimate violation. For Meghan, witnessing this play out live felt like a direct assault magnified exponentially. The initial segment that sparked immediate controversy featured Morgan showcasing a portion where Meghan purportedly voiced dissatisfaction with how she's portrayed publicly. Her feelings of being misrepresented, targeted, and undervalued despite her humanitarian initiatives and attempts to maintain prominence across both Hollywood and British circles. Morgan offered no commentary or analysis. He simply allowed the footage to stand on its own, and it certainly made an impact. Instantly, online discourse ignited. Analysts and opinion makers picked apart each statement, every vocal nuance, every moment of silence. Some pointed to this as evidence of Meghan's alleged self-absorption. Others defended it as an authentic reflection of someone enduring relentless examination, navigating the weight of celebrity and royal expectations. Yet for Meghan, the specific interpretations were irrelevant. What truly mattered was the erosion of her carefully maintained authority over her own narrative.
With the media, everything that she does, they basically lambast.
According to individuals familiar with Harry and Meghan's circle, her immediate reaction was to pursue litigation. Phone calls flew, messages were dispatched urgently, and attorneys were assembled to assess whether any aspect of the program could face legal challenge. However, as those in the know explained, the situation proved far from simple. Morgan had skillfully sidestepped making explicit claims that could invite lawsuits. He hadn't fabricated information. He hadn't crossed into slander territory. What he had accomplished, though, was exposing private exchanges in a manner that rendered them public and contagious, and in modern media, that carries nearly the same destructive force as a direct assault. Harry, from what's been reported, found himself emotionally torn. People familiar with the situation describe him as agitated, attempting to comfort Meghan while simultaneously dealing with his own media crisis. His anger targeted not just Morgan but the reality that public discussion had pivoted once more toward his wife's perceived weaknesses, and consequently, toward himself. The pair, who'd invested enormous effort into projecting a particular image, suddenly found themselves plunged back into waves of gossip, backlash, and scrutiny. The timing proved particularly catastrophic. Morgan's revelations surfaced precisely as Meghan prepared to intensify promotion for an upcoming philanthropic project and multiple media engagements. Reports indicate the aftermath from Morgan's program compelled the Sussexes to postpone these initiatives, reevaluate their communication approach, and mount protective publicity operations. It triggered a chain reaction rippling through their meticulously organized existence, leaving Meghan noticeably shaken.
Wives. Oh, really? That feels odd to me.
Those with inside knowledge also revealed that Meghan's advisors were especially troubled by the general public's response. Social media commentary proved merciless, swinging between mockery and disbelief. Digital satire multiplied faster than any official communication could be distributed. Content creators and media figures dissected the ramifications without pause. As one contact described it, Meghan felt increasingly cornered, recognizing that in the arena of public sentiment, appearances often inflict more harm than facts. Central to this upheaval, according to those in her inner circle, was Meghan's profound feeling of violation. She'd operated under the assumption that candid remarks made during a supervised interview setting would remain confidential. Instead, they'd become fodder for mass consumption, scrutinized by countless observers, and twisted into ammunition she never saw coming. For someone who'd painstakingly orchestrated every facet of her public identity, this abrupt vulnerability felt catastrophic. Once the broadcast wrapped, the consequences were undeniable. News outlets ran rampant, video clips spread across every platform, and Meghan Markle, typically known for her composed demeanor, was captured in an uncommon state of raw, undisguised distress. Confidants described her as furious, restless, and voicing feelings of treachery. The palace maintained official silence, though reports suggest internal unease about potential indirect damage to the monarchy's reputation. Even sympathetic voices urged caution. Many conceded the injustice of broadcasting intimate moments so publicly, yet reminded everyone that in today's digital landscape, privacy rarely endures. Meghan's approach of narrative management faced its greatest challenge, and Piers Morgan had unleashed it during peak viewing hours ruthlessly, unapologetically. By midday, their California home had descended into organized turmoil. Legal discussions continued without pause. Official responses were composed and reworked repeatedly. Harry offered emotional reassurance while working to avoid a complete PR disaster. And Meghan, she was reportedly examining every possibility, weighing every potential move, and preparing herself for the inevitable fallout ahead.
Very complicated relationship with social media, as you can probably imagine.
And what stood out most dramatically, according to sources, was Meghan's sheer determination. This transcended a minor publicity setback. This represented a fundamental challenge to the identity she'd meticulously shaped across years. A stark lesson that regardless of tactical planning, public engagements, or charitable work, mass perception could transform with a single televised segment. As online platforms continued erupting, one reality emerged with painful clarity: Meghan Markle, who'd skillfully maneuvered through entertainment, monarchy, and worldwide media attention, had been blindsided, and her anger was palpable. The day following the airing, their California estate hummed with anxious energy. Meghan had managed little rest, her mind spinning as she continuously revisited Morgan's commentary. Her attorneys were already tense, weighing litigation prospects, potential repercussions, and the media firestorm certain to materialize. Every incoming call, message, or communication seemed to underscore how vulnerable she'd become. Harry, for his part, attempted to project stability amid the chaos, though reports indicate he was equally disturbed. "He's livid," an insider disclosed. "Not solely at Piers, but at the entire trajectory. He feels their every move gets dissected, every decision questioned, and now Meghan's intimate reflections have been thrust under intense examination. It's suffocating." The couple had dedicated years to precisely shaping their reputation, each humanitarian effort, streaming collaboration, and social media update deliberately designed to portray them as approachable, empathetic, and committed. Now, in one devastating moment, Morgan's revelation had torn through that facade, exposing them in their most unguarded state.
Of our royal family, of the monarchy, of everything the Queen.
According to those with knowledge of the situation, Meghan's immediate impulse was to counterattack, swiftly and forcefully. She convened an urgent session with her communications team, insisting on prepared statements, counterarguments, and clarifications delivered within hours. "She's desperate to regain control of the story," a contact explained. "But this time, events have slipped beyond her grasp, and that's driving her crazy." The discussion apparently grew contentious. Meghan, recognized for her tactical mindset, allegedly criticized her team for allowing this situation to develop, arguing they should have foreseen Morgan's strategy. She insisted they craft a response that would simultaneously defend her standing and undermine the allegations, all while preserving her refined, approachable image. It represented a precarious tightrope walk, and sources indicate the atmosphere was thick with stress. Harry, observing Meghan's agitation, reportedly experienced conflicting emotions of worry and powerlessness. He grasped her need to manage the crisis, yet recognized that any excessive reaction might intensify the media circus. "He's attempting to inject some rationality," someone close to them shared. But Meghan has shifted into full emergency mode. She's beyond merely distressed, she feels trapped, and when that happens, her response intensifies.
Nobody in Britain calls her that. Meghan Markle. You know, she got lucky, met her prince, dragged him out of the bosom of his...
As hours passed, online platforms remained ablaze. Footage from Morgan's program circulated relentlessly, examined by analysts, critics, and supporters equally. Digital jokes proliferated, discussion forums on social platforms continued for extended periods, and video commentary channels went into overdrive. Some offered sympathy, proposing Meghan's statements had been distorted. Others showed no mercy, characterizing the Duchess as self-centered, calculating, or even worse. For Meghan, monitoring the digital reaction resembled witnessing an uncontrolled blaze, mesmerizing to distant observers, horrifying to anyone caught within. Those familiar with the couple portrayed Meghan as swinging between fury and anguish. In one instant she'd be formulating tactical counter-strategies. The next, she'd reportedly withdraw into secluded areas, contemplating the broadcast's ramifications. Harry attempted to suggest a balanced approach, but Meghan's advisors signaled that patience wasn't an option. She demands immediate action. The palace, maintaining public silence, was allegedly tracking developments vigilantly. Royal staff members quietly expressed concerns about appearances, with private conversations addressing how the controversy might tangentially impact the institution. Meghan, cognizant of these background watchers, purportedly grew increasingly guarded, maintaining she was being unjustly singled out and refusing to let others shape her story. By afternoon, a plan started crystallizing. Meghan's advisors assembled key messages for carefully chosen interviews, composed social platform declarations, and even explored litigation possibilities. Yet the primary obstacle wasn't substance, it was coordination. Each countermove required precise calibration to neutralize Morgan's impact without appearing overly reactive or frantic. The clock matters enormously, an insider noted. Meghan understands that moving either prematurely or belatedly gives media ammunition. She craves authority, but it's eroding. Harry, witnessing this escalation, reportedly experienced the gravity intensely. He'd consistently advocated for Meghan's missions and stood beside her publicly and privately. But confronting this media hurricane proved unlike anything he'd envisioned. Associates describe him as feeling powerless, exasperated, and profoundly worried about his wife's state of mind. He observed the fatigue etched across her features, the fierce determination in her gaze, and the mounting pressure permeating their household.
Between two flames. You see how that works? Why?
As daylight faded into evening, Meghan's tactics reportedly intensified. She insisted every news platform sharing footage be reached directly, each storyline be corrected, and Morgan himself be confronted publicly. Legal counselors urged caution, noting that challenging someone like Piers Morgan risked backfiring spectacularly. Yet Meghan allegedly dismissed such concerns. "I refuse to stay quiet," she purportedly declared to her advisors. "Not now, not ever." Harry, during this time, tried bridging the gap between Meghan's impulses and practical reality. He stressed that sometimes restraint proves more effective, that not every conflict demands public warfare. But Meghan, according to reports, remained resolute. For her, permitting Morgan to control the conversation unchallenged was inconceivable. She viewed it as an assault not merely on her image, but on years of calculated efforts to preserve power, prominence, and dignity. When darkness settled, tensions peaked. Social metrics revealed skyrocketing activity, both supportive and hostile. Media organizations published follow-up pieces, analyzing each statement, every fragment, and all responses. Acquaintances of the couple characterized the Montecito environment as strained, unrelenting, and draining. The pair, typically composed and media literate, found themselves battling a seemingly endless tempest. People close to Meghan portrayed her as someone stretched to her limit, vacillating between resolve and exasperation. "She doesn't accept defeat easily," an insider clarified. When challenged, her response amplifies. She needs her voice heard, her perspective acknowledged, and the world to honor her boundaries. When figures like Piers Morgan violate that, it becomes a direct provocation she cannot dismiss. Harry, observing all this, allegedly felt conflicted. He wished to stand with Meghan while simultaneously fearing the lasting consequences of their response. The Sussexes had nurtured a reputation, constructed a story, and earned public compassion through the years, yet Morgan's disclosure risked dismantling everything. "He's attempting to inject logic," a contact revealed. "He's reminding Meghan that public perception becomes truth, but she's completely defensive now." The dynamic is strained. By late night, their residence had transformed into a command center. Documents were written, communications placed, and approaches debated thoroughly. Legal professionals assessed possibilities. Communications experts recommended calibrated messaging, but Meghan stayed inflexible, demanding swift action and visible engagement. Harry, worn down and drained, reportedly withdrew somewhat, understanding that despite his backing, certain conflicts needed to unfold according to Meghan's judgment. Thus, the day concluded without clarity, only the brewing anticipation of what lay ahead. Morgan's disclosure had triggered a cascade of consequences. For Meghan Markle, the repercussions were intimate, exposed, and unavoidable. Harry remained at her side. Yet even he recognized that weathering the coming turbulence would demand every bit of tactical thinking, composure, and strength they could summon. One truth stood undeniable.